Do not by any means use a bottled ranch dip dressing. Elevate your crudite. The garlic, wow. It packs a big punch with the delightfulness of the sage, which brings that nice warmth into it, and the creaminess of the white bean. Stay tuned, I'm going to show you how to make my Tuscan white bean and sage bean dip to elevate your crudite and make your parties a feast. It's vegan. You don't have to tell them if you don't want to. Are you having friends over for a Super Bowl party? Or heck, anytime you want to have a special party? How about I show you a way to elevate your crudite, a vegetable plate, a fancy way of saying a vegetable plate is a crudite, with some lovely organic vegetables. Upgrade it by using something fancy that a lot of people don't know about. Go to your farmers markets, find something fun, use a lot of color. And certainly, let me show you some wonderful ingredients of a Tuscan white bean and sage vegan dip. It is low fat, high in iron, lots of fiber, and tons of flavor. We're going to use white beans or cannellini beans that you can find in pretty much every grocery store. I always recommend draining, rinsing, and saving the Aquafaba, which is the liquid from chickpeas, or in this case, cannellini beans. Aquafaba can be used as a vegan substitute in cooking. I recommend a quick rinse and let them drain for just a minute or two while I open up my trusty favorite food processor. To the food processor, I'm going to start with my cannellini beans that have been rinsed and drained. I'm going to add a pinch of sea salt. Do a couple of generous pinches to start. There's a lot of beans in there. I'm going to add some good quality olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you are welcome to use a canola oil, a vegetable oil, avocado oil. You can also thin it down with water. That is a great tip as well. I'm going to use a couple of turns of fresh cracked pepper and a little bit of paprika. I use a smoked paprika here. You can find paprika in most markets, just a dash or two. If you don't have paprika or you don't care for paprika, your kitchen, your rules, don't use it. Our final component is some garlic. I smash these up ahead of time, so that'll help them macerate a little bit easier. And I'm going to reserve the star of the show, my sage, for afterwards, because I don't want it to disappear. I want it to blend beautifully. Have a spatula nearby so that way you can give it a little turn and scrape down the edges. If it seems very thick, you can also add at this point either a dash more of olive oil or maybe some water if you want to keep your calories lower. But it's a holiday, who cares about calories? Sage is such a rustic, delicious herb that you can use all season long. Thankfully, I live in California, so we get this quite a bit. But you can find them particularly in the winter months. It's a nice hearty herb. And I like using these beautiful leaves that I fry very lightly in a little bit of olive oil, and I make them crispy. And I use that to elevate my dips and my appetizers. So that's a little extra tip you should know. I'm just chopping up a handful of leaves, just doing a few of them so that I can blend them into the food processor. I don't want to macerate them into oblivion. I want them to be the star, and the fragrance is incredible. We'll save some extra leaves as a garnish. Pulse a few times. Look at that. Oh, gorgeous. Healthy, vegan, Tuscan sage dip with lots of garlic. If you're going to make a presentation on, say, a platter of your crudite, or if you just want to have a bowl sitting by that people can dip with whatever vegetables they're using, I like to save a little crown or two of my sage, and I'll just garnish it. So put a little bit here with a little catering flourish just on the side so that way people know what's in it. And then I would maybe put a tiny dollop of some olive oil on top, and I'd use a little bit of a spoon, just a little, to just make a little more of a well in the center and a little dash of more paprika, as that's part of what we're serving. Tuscan bean dip with sage. Next, we're gonna build a crudite. When I make a crudite, I like to use vegetables that maybe you don't see too often. Obviously, we've got asparagus, which we do see quite a bit. You want to just use the tips. I love how very easily now we can find these organic heirloom carrots. There are different colors. They're very pretty, they're very special. But here is the star of my crudite, this lovely romanesco broccoli family. We pull off the bottom leaves and it exposes the stem. All you need is a pretty sharp knife, and because it is so beautiful, we don't want them to disappear. So I'm just going to very carefully cut down maybe the center, gently, carefully, and I'm going to break off with my hands some of these pieces. You don't see these very often. I want to remind you, support your local farmers markets. This is where you can find a lot of these wonderful and different kind of vegetables that can have a lot of wow factor for your guests. To build a simple crudite platter, I like to put a handful of my taller, spikier things on one end. Then I might situate my dip on one end so that it can feature it and start building things around it. Since this romanesco is so gorgeous and special, you can kind of wedge it in to the side so it really has a pretty focal point. And you don't have to use all of them. You can always reserve some and oops, you can always reserve some and add them later on, because when people see them, they're gonna wanna eat it. And then that's when I'll add in some of these really lovely heirloom carrots. You can cut them into smaller pieces if you want, but you know, if you don't have the time, just scatter them, let them tumble where they will. It'll look really pretty. And I like to use larger pieces on top of the raw ends of the asparagus, so it actually looks like they're buried in a bunch of beautiful colors. A lovely crudite that has heirloom carrots, organic asparagus, romanesco. Just know that your dip is going to be the star of this. If you want to elevate it a little more, grill all of these vegetables first. Or blanch your romanesco just a little bit to soften it and brighten the color. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And send me some notes. What are other dips that you like to use? I'd love to know. Maybe I'll teach you a new one or two down the road. Thank you so much.